Welcome back to Switch to Linux. Well, today we want to talk about how we can build NextCloud on a Linode server. You might want to build NextCloud for your best backend for your own contact management, maybe your own phone syncing management, all sorts of things that you may not want to give to Apple or to Google or things. Whereas if you have it on your own encrypted NextCloud instance on a server such as Linode, you can actually feel a lot more confident in your content. This is actually what I do. Now, I don't sync and back up everything on there. I really don't use my phone for much more than brief conversations. But if I snap a photo when I'm out in the wild and want to upload it quickly to that, I can use my NextCloud to share servers and files. I have an upload Dropbox. If somebody needs to send a big file to me, they can just have that link, uploads files, and I can grab those files directly. There's a lot of benefits to this. So the Linodes start about $5 a month, and for that one, you're going to get one CPU, 25 gigabytes of storage, and I forget exactly how much data transfer it is. It's at least a terabyte of data transfer a month. And this is a really good deal. Now, you can use my affiliate code tlm.li/Linode. You can get $100 credit for 60 days with that affiliate account. So what we're going to do here today is I want to jump on over to Linode, and I want to get a NextCloud instance set up. Now, there's going to be one small caveat to that, and that is that I just got the domain added. It's going to take some time to propagate, so hopefully it propagates. If it doesn't, it doesn't, but we'll go ahead and walk through all of that basic process. Now, over here on my dashboard, now I cut off the top, about the top little bit of the screen, which has my username, and it does have the big blue create button up here. If I pop that down, you'll see what pops down. Your username will pop down your profile and a logout button as well. So we're going to want to see those as well. So I have a couple Linodes running here already. You can see the Linodes. You can get a little description about what it is and your IP address. Of course, two of these guys are things I was playing around with, so I'll sort out which ones of those are which in a bit. But anyway, we have that. I've added a domain to my account, tommorosky.com. That's going to be wherever you purchase your domains. Just create name servers, ns1.linode.com, ns2.linode.com, all the way down to ns5.linode.com. And then you do want to give it some time to propagate the domains. Now, what I did here, just to make sure that the domain is propagating, even though it may not be propagated by the time I'm done recording the video, I just went into my hosts file and I'm forcing my computer to propagate the domain for me in advance. Of course, if you head on over to whatsmydns.net, you can test the propagation checker. So, of course, if I do a check for the NS records, you can see that I have the NS records set correctly. So that's good. But last time I checked, it looks like the A records have not yet caught up because I just added those, and that can take, they say up to 48 hours. In reality, 3 or 4 hours, that usually takes care of itself. All right, so the other thing we're going to need is we're going to need an API token. So these are under your account, and hit my profile. And then over here under API tokens, I created one for domains. This has access to the domains in my account. So this is going to enable us to create a Linode attached to a domain name that we have in our account. I do have a couple questions about how this works still, but we'll get to that in a bit. Primarily, as I create it, I'm wondering if I have multiple domains, how does it know exactly which domain I'm picking from? And I'm going to show you what I mean. If we add a personal access token here for domains, we give it a label, and you can see I can just have it set to read and write or read-only domains here. But it doesn't actually tell me which domain it is, and that's going to become clear that as we build the NextCloud, I don't actually tell it which domain to use. Now, in my case, I only have one domain in the account, so I'm wondering what's going to happen if you have 2 or 3 or 4 domains. Maybe that's something, if somebody that's more familiar with the Linode can jump on and tell us, that would be epic. The other thing that we need, let's see, if you just do some basic internet searching, just NextCloud Linode, you'll get the basic NextCloud install script instructions. This follows your basic setup, so we'll be doing the advanced setup. If your basic setup, it defaults to NextCloud switchedtolinux.yourdomain.com. If you don't have a domain set up for it, just do the IP address /NextCloud, and that'll get you in and work on things. So we're going to go ahead and walk through how to go ahead and create this guy here. So under your blue button that's just out of screen there, under Create, you can see you have a variety of options. We're going to create a new Linode. Now we're going to jump on over to the Marketplace where you have a lot of various options and click on the NextCloud button. The eye will give us any information. In this case, we do have a guide here, and I believe that might be the same guide we already had. So here's how to click it. Now their website, for me, I'm running WaterFox. I think I tested this on Firefox as well. Their website seems to be broken. The scroll's not working. You actually have to use the arrow keys to go down. These will generally do a pretty good job of walking you through everything. Hopefully the website bug gets fixed out, or hey, maybe it's because I'm in an old version of WaterFox right now. But I thought I tested on newer Firefox and it still wasn't working. So you want to create an API v4 access token. So it's going to want that. That's kind of what we already walked through. Get your domain name registered and set the domain name up. And then you do want to wait that 24 hours. I'm going to bypass that by jumping in and creating the host file redirect by editing on my Linux box here, etc/hosts, and then just add the IP address and the domain name to that. Now that's only going to work on this computer. I could deploy it network wide, but within a day it should be available. So you can see here the next step, it's going to have you just kind of click on it. Go through, select the app, and then it's going to explain what the fields are. You're going to need to keep your MySQL database root password and the user password because these are required on the setup script. So NextCloud itself, when you set it up, basically this is installing the setup, then the NextCloud setup script, and so that will work. LAMP stack options, if you want to use a different domain name, database name, NextCloud is the defaults on those. And then the sudo limited, this is if you want to be able to have a sudo group on the SSH. It does ask for a SSH public key, which is optional. I'm using a password instead of the key, mostly because this is going to be taken down soon because my NextCloud is already on another separate computer, a separate server system, and mine's working really well. So I'm not reinventing the password here. Reinventing the wheel here. Yeah, reinventing the password. Enable passwordless sudo. That's what I was reading. Ever do that? You're reading something and talking at the same time. You say the wrong thing. So other things, the token is required to create a domain name system record for the NextCloud instance, getting started with the Linode API guide to learn how to generate an API token. So they do have the guide for getting ready with that. And then Linode hostname, the hostname assigned to the Linode server. If no value is provided, the hostname is set to NextCloud. Okay, so that's kind of your default. The domain name is the domain name to use. So this is here where the default's going to be nextcloud.yourdomain.com. So you can access the NextCloud with it. So www.nextcloud.example.com. This is where you can change those settings. All right, admin email address, and then enable SSL or not. You have to have a domain name for that. And then the time zone. I did not see the time zone when I was doing these, but we'll go ahead and see if that's in there. All right, so that's pretty much all we're going to need to do. So let's go ahead and walk through that process. We have our NextCloud clicked here. So we're going to go ahead and enter in some data. Now, what I've already done prior to the video, I've created the API key, and I actually have that on a card here that's out of your view. I also have the password I'm going to use for things, and I have my basically a bunch of information on my clipboard. So the name of the admin user, I'm just going to use Tom Admin in this case, and then we're going to give it a password. So this is the admin user's password. We do need the root password for the MySQL database, and we need a password for the database user. Okay, so I'm just going to use that password. Now, I'm okay with NextCloud being the name of the database and the user to be created. And then the limited sudo user group that we can use. So we're going to go ahead and just use my same guy there. And what is the password for this guy? And again, I'm going to use the same password across the field in this instance. I'm going to leave the public SSH public key blank just because I don't have any set up. and I will use a password to access it rather than the key. If you're full production, you might want to use the key instead. It is going to be more secure. So your Linode API token, I'm going to go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and enter the API token there. That is what was I created in my API tokens list. So the subdomain for the DNS. So if you don't want to do, you have to put something here, I guess is the better way to say it. If you don't put anything, it's going to be NextCloud. I'll just go ahead and enter NextCloud here. You could say something like cloud or my dot, whatever. I'm just going to go ahead and do NextCloud in this instance. Okay, so the domain for Linode's DNS record. Okay, so the domain is going to be my full domain. So we're going to do tommorosky.com, and then the admin is going to use my public-facing business email address. So there we have it. And then would you like to use Let's Encrypt? I'm going to go ahead and hit yes. It may not run if the DNS has not propagated yet, but we'll go ahead and turn that on. Then whenever the DNS catches up, then the system should auto run and auto install the system. We only have one option for our image, and that's going to be Debian 10, so that's okay. And then you want to pick a region closest to you. So I'm going to pick Newark, New Jersey. Your plan, if you're just a single or maybe just a small family, you could do just a single one. If you want to go up a little higher, you can go up to 50 gigabytes of storage and things like that. And then a label, I'm just going to go ahead and use the NextCloud labels fine. I don't need any tags. And then here is where I'm going to enter my SSH password there. You can add the backups. If you're doing full production, you might want to do that. It might be worth the extra $2 a month. Private IP this is something internal to Linode. If you need to actually utilize the Linode server on a variety of other Linode servers on an internal network to Linode, you want to enable that. Otherwise, you don't need to. We're going to go ahead and hit our create. Now, hopefully what the API is going to do is update the domain name, because the domain name that I have has a different IP block address here. I don't want to mess with the domain name right now, but I will actually need to go ahead and change my host file for these guys. So I'm going to go ahead and do that while we're waiting for this guy to run. And what usually happens is it'll get the server up, and then you'll still need to wait a little bit after the thing says it's run. So it's going to run the server, and then what it's going to do is it's going to create create the script, and then it's going to run that script. So that will take a little bit. So even though it might say, it says here booting, even when it's done booting 100%, it's not going to be ready right away. You're going to have to give it some time to run the script in the background. So we might want to just pause here for a second and come back in about 5 minutes time or so, just to make sure it's all running. And then we'll go ahead and have a quick look at the domain again, just to see if that happened to change the updates. And then we'll go ahead and check the IP propagation checker one more time, see if by chance our domain is not propagating by now. So we'll be back in about 5 minutes or so. All right, so we waited, the script actually tells us to wait 5 to 7 minutes. So I went back through and looked at the script here. You see the green note, wait 5 to 7 minutes. And I know it's working because I go over here, enter the IP address, and we get this, which is a common thing. If you access the NextCloud server through an untrusted domain, that's what we get. We also found our DNS propagation. It is now propagating in most regions to the old IP address that was on the domain. But let's go ahead and manually update the domain because it looks as though it didn't do that. One of the downsides I found on Linode is there's no option in here to just reset a given domain to an existing Linode. So you're gonna have to go through and manually do it, but it's not particularly difficult. All we're gonna need to do is just change all of the instances of the IP to whatever our new IP address is. So in this case, I'm just going to change all of my IPv4s to this guy, and there's really only a couple of them, so no big deal. It's not exactly like this is difficult. Now, changing the IP addresses inside of these is going to be way faster than propagating the full domain. So once we're done with this step, we should actually be just about ready to go. So we're going to go ahead and edit our IVP6s. And then we'll go ahead and do one more check on the propagation. This will not take a long time, but it'll take a little bit of time. All right, so that guy is all done. Let's go ahead and do a quick propagation check. So it is still pointing to the old one. It'll probably update that within just a few minutes. But my local server internally should be functioning correctly. So we'll just go now to nextcloud.tommorosky.net. And, .com that is, my apologies. And this is going to take us to our initial login screen. So let's go ahead and enter our username there and enter our password here. No, I didn't forget my passwords. One of the things that I do not like, it's not a NextCloud thing. It's a fairly new Firefoxy type thing where it's like, you're not in an SSL. And then it gives you this annoying pop down, which gets in the way of my login button. And you accidentally hit the forget password instead. All right, go ahead and get logged in. And that should get us logged in there. And once the DNS checker is resolved, then it should actually eventually get us the SSL. If it doesn't, I can go ahead and rerun it. So here's your NextCloud hub. Safe home for all your data. There you go. You can grab the desktop app. You can grab the apps on the Google Play Store or the App Store. If you're on Android, you can also grab it from F-Droid as well. You can connect a lot of, pretty much everything through that. So we'll go ahead and start it. This is the new screen here. I'm not sure how I feel about it yet. It's actually not on the version I'm actually using. But one of the things I wanted to test on this guy is not under settings, under apps. Let's go down under apps. The new system has its own Calibora server that you can run. You used to have to run, and the way I'm doing is I have a separate server that is running. And what I'm going to test here is I want to see if we can run the Calibora without it. So let's go ahead and download and enable this guy. And then we need a built-in code server. So we're going to need to run this guy as well. Or you can grab one for an ARM64 if you're on an ARM device. So let's go ahead and download and enable this. And then we might have to check a little bit of documentation, but what this should enable you to do is enable you to use your NextCloud as a Google Docs replacement. I have not actually tested this function yet because I'm using my own code server deployment. But you can see how easy it was to get set up here, and now we have a NextCloud instance running, and once the domain name resolves, if the SSL does not show up automatically, just log into the console and run your certbot is generally what we should have to do. All right, so let's go now under our settings. And then we might need to enable something in our Calibora there to get this guy set up. I'm going to go ahead and do another quick check on the propagation. It's still running the old IP address. That's okay. All right, so this guy set up, and there's Calibora. Okay, so the server is reachable. Use the built-in code server. So that actually should work. So let's go ahead and give it a quick test and see if it works or not. So over here, here's our documents. Here's a welcome NextCloud doc here. So let's go ahead and click on this guy, see if it opens in code or not. Looks like it's opening in code. Connecting, and there we have it. Look at that. Now you have a Google Docs replacement. One-click install on NextCloud on Linode. So that was actually fairly easy. The only downside is I didn't wait the full 24 hours before updating your domain name. You should not have that problem if you actually give yourself that wait time. So there we have it. We have an instance of NextCloud running, very simple to set up. It went ahead and installed everything all itself. And now we have a fully functioning NextCloud. Now, a couple quick notes when you're inside here in NextCloud. The top bar there is cut off because of where I have my cropping done. But pulling down this guy, actually the sidebar is also cut off. There you go. Now you can see the sidebar at least. All right, so this guy here, you can actually come in here. I never use my main admin as an actual user, so I always keep my admin user as a separate login. So if I need to do any administrative stuff, it's just an extra security protocol. The one I actually use day to day is not an administrator account. I have my separate admin account. Now what I'm going to do is I can just go in here, add a new user, and now I'm going to add my own personal user in here, and then we are good to go. So that is how you can get this guy all set up. And let's go ahead and walk through real quickly a few other things. If we go into back into our apps, you're going to want to come through here and turn on the various things that you want. So activity, this is set up. You might want to enable, let's see if we can find our password policies. A lot of stuff's already set up, but some things are not. So let's do social and communication. Just trying to find where the calendars and contact apps are. I want to go ahead and get those guys turned on. Okay, download and enable our calendar. There is, oh, that's analytics. I actually wanted to go with the appointments there, but oh well. Okay, calendar should already be set up. I'm just looking for contacts now. Okay, there's our contacts. Mail is a good option. You can connect any IMAP mail account to it. Now you'll notice there is an OnlyOffice. You can't have OnlyOffice and Calibora installed simultaneously. So pick whichever one you would like to use. Oh man, the e-reader book is back. That was actually a good feature. I liked in the past and they took it out for a while, but it looks like it's back. So, and then you can flip through here. There's games, files, integrations, organizations. There's a lot of other options in there. But it's one I wanted to show you guys. Here's your calendar. And then, so this guy works really well. This is actually what I use to manage my own calendars. It syncs across all my computers. Then we have the contacts. Is it going to load for me? Maybe it'll load too. We'll see. This might be because of how old of a version of WaterFox I'm on, to be honest. There you go. You can connect your mail account to it. And back to our files. All right, so there we have it. There's, of course, other tutorials I have on NextCloud, but this is a very good way to get one set up on Linode. So if you want to head on over to Linode and use my affiliate code over there, tlm.li/Linode. That'll give you $100 credit to use for the next 60 days to give a variety of Linode services a try. Very easy to work with. This is the first time I've done this one. Just flipped through a little bit of the documentation there, and that was it. Very easy, very quick to install. Definitely easier than following through the setup that I did on the cPanel in the past. So there you have it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Let me know your thoughts, and do you use NextCloud? Why not? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you for watching this video from Switched to Linux. This channel would not be possible without the backing of the program supporters scrolling on the screen now. You can be a supporter at Patreon at patreon.com/TOMM or at thinklifemedia.com. I also want to thank the open source community who creates such excellent software that makes producing this show possible. Please remember to support your software communities. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.